Come on, bro. Like, you can't do this. I had a 10 times upgraded presentation, which people think that they can build a keynote immediately. You'd see which one performed the best. And then you take that one, put it on Instagram. Have you ever seen a Ryan Serhant video, have him telling you how he negotiated a deal with the attorneys? No, never. Most people don't get enough muscle memory. If you are not okay watching your own videos, something's majorly wrong. Why do you expect other people would watch your video?
How you think agents should approach the changes that are coming in the industry. Welcome to the REVB podcast. Katie, I'm pretty excited for this. You're excited?
I am more excited than you.
We have set up the official REVB random hotel room studio to record this podcast with our friend, president of Real Brokerage, Srivatsaa.
Damn it.
No, we're rolling. Keep it.
That's fine. That's
my
fine.
dude Sharran. And here's the deal. From the first time I had you on the podcast years ago, it's like 20
in your little living room.
The Tim Macy show?
in my living
Tim
room.
Macy show.
In my living room, I had a towel over the microphone to try to make the sound better. And I nailed your name the first time, and ever since, that's the first time I jacked it up.
That's okay, man.
I think I'm gonna pat myself on the back for making it this long.
We're screwing up.
Yeah, no. I'm disappointed, Tim. I give you one job.
Oh man. Sharran, it's an interesting week when you come to these events because you speak at so many of them. What are you bringing us this week?
The crazy part about going to various real estate events and events in general is that I have seen most pro speakers, and I love almost all of them. They have very similar presentations. And I know folks that will make one for the year and they'll do the same presentation 37 times. Sometimes there's an audience overlap and people are like, I've kind of seen that. And sometimes there's not. And so they get away with it. But the crazy part is, for me, I can't do that to myself. I can't deliver the same presentation 2 times because it is a personal flaw. Like, I have to stay not bored.
So how many slides do you have? How many new slides did you make for this week?
I made I have close to 100 slides for a 45-minute keynote.
So how much easier would your life be if you did just like do the same presentation over and over again? Like, how many presentations a year are you building?
I'll tell you. So on average, and this is a really good topic to talk about. On average, I make 1 keynote a week. So 1 45-minute to 60-minute keynote a week, because I've realized that, and I'll tell you how the process is important for a lot of people. Most people will sit down and they'll try to build a presentation and you have this blank screen syndrome. And you're like, all right, well, how do I actually build this? I try a lot of my material on podcasts. So I'm like, oh, cool, let's actually talk about this. And I'm like, oh, did it resonate? Oh, Katie and Tim did not even smile on that topic. So I probably should not go down this path. The second thing I'll do is I'll actually work through the material and I'll record a show on my own podcast about it. And that allows me to frame my thoughts. And then based on the feedback that I get, I use that to build a little keynote.
And what's funny to me about that is it just goes back to all the video stuff that we talk about. Like, oh, how do you do so many videos? How do you do so many videos? Well, you do so many presentations because you build one every single week, which to most people probably sounds crazy. But the fact is, if you want to do crazy things, you got to do some crazy things.
Yeah. Let's get tactical, right? This is actually would help people on this one. 2 rules with presentations. Number 1, no worksheet, no presentation. And most people, what they do is they'll just want to build it live. They're like, oh, I have this idea to build a presentation. You know, Katie has a really good one on agent-agent referrals, right? If someone wanted to build an agent-agent referral presentation, they're like, oh, cool. What would I call it? And they'll stuck on the slide for the first few minutes. Oh, what would my second slide be? Then they'll move it around. Then they'll say, I think I should use this meme from The Office. They'll put that in. Oh, that doesn't really go there, so I should put it somewhere else. I know you have done that, right? I know that's happened. And the problem there is when that happens, the efficiency of building the slides and building the presentation is not a very healthy thing. So what I do is I hired during COVID time, I hired a presentation coach, and he's told me no worksheet, no presentation. So I actually build it. We have a worksheet, and I build a worksheet for the presentation, and then I build the slides. That's kind of part 1. The second is, and if we want, we should get a copy of the worksheet. Happy to link it up if that's helpful to people. But the second part of it is I only have 12 slide templates. So I can build a keynote in 45 minutes because I'm like, all right, there's a title slide, there's a quote slide, there's a in the phone video slide. It's the same thing. So I'm like, oh, that's in the phone video, drop it in. And so I can build stuff fast. But most people be like, oh, I just used that slide, or what color do I use on this one? Or did the font work? Or did Canva give me a new presentation template? Maybe I should use that. That's really distracting. So I've gotten to the point now where the efficiency of creating the presentation all happens on the worksheet. And the building of the slides is a super fast thing.
Well, and I think what's cool too is with your slides and everything, since they do look the same, there's like a cohesive brand. over and over again, which is like the same with your content, a cohesive brand over and over again. So I think there's a lesson there for agents of like every single time they do something, they try to reinvent the wheel. And it's like there should be some repetition to what you're doing each week or each month.
Well, you get better, and people don't realize this. Ideas don't come out fully formed. And as soon as you can realize that, a lot of good things happen. Never has been a time where you're like, I have this amazing idea, and it never comes out well formed on paper, on a slide, in how you want to say it, etc.
Tim knows all about that.
But you, I mean, you're very creative. You're the idea guy, right? But you have to work it. You have to like play with it. You have to build a framework around it. You get some thinking around it. You'll hear some stories around it. And I think what I've noticed is when I have an idea, and while I'm scrolling Instagram or whatever, I'm like, that was the greatest meme to frame that idea, right? And so you'll start to realize like, oh, now it's actually working. And I think the hard part is people think that they can build a keynote immediately. I'll tell you the greatest story. For me, not for everyone else. But so last year I did like a 10-week tour, and it was 10 different places, 10 different presentations, and a couple I was with Tim, wherever we were. And I didn't have time to build 10 new presentations. So I did a similar presentation 10 times. But I knew I was going to get bored, but I promised myself this one thing. After every presentation, when I went back to my hotel room that night, I asked myself this one question: what is one upgrade that I can make to this slide? So the 10th time I delivered that, it was almost a completely different presentation. Swap the slides around, swap the flow, new story, new video. I changed one thing in every time I delivered it. And because of that, I had a 10 times upgraded presentation.
So I think one thing I like about what you're saying is this repetition idea, and the fact that you have a framework means you can come up with these new presentations because you have the framework. And I think we can kind of connect that to video, in that so many times our agents are getting distracted on a new thing. Like, what new thing can I do with video? And it's like, you figure out something that works and you keep iterating on top of it. And because I watched so many of your presentations, whether we're traveling together on Zoom or everything else, like I could see you tweak the thing that you've already done. And so one, you have like, your A, D, and F, and then the next one you have D, C, and B. Like you have these different things and you kind of restack them, reorder them, innovate on them. And I think agents could do a lot of the same thing with video. So like, what's your take on putting out a lot of content?
Yeah, let's talk about that. So by the way, we should give Tim kudos when he deserves it, right? So I delivered a presentation once and Tim was like, that's pretty good. But he goes, I would pull all the tactics up front. He goes, you framed it well, but you didn't get into the how and the tactics until like minute 15. So I was like, that's really good feedback. So all I did was pull a few things in minute 2, and then it flowed.
But Katie, is that not why everybody thinks I'm kind of mean though? Because if somebody does a presentation, they get off the stage, everybody says, you were so great. You were so great. Oh my God, that was awesome. Great job. And then like Brad will get to me and I'll be like, but if you're ever going to get better, like you need to have feedback.
No, it was great.
Well, and I mean, I don't do that, right? I'm not going to tell you did a good job for the sake of telling you did a good job. Like we'll give the constructive feedback, right?
And I think the more you do it, the less you feel judged. You're like, okay, cool. That's good feedback. I can move it around right away. But let's talk about video for a second. I believe that every single agent should take on a 5-day challenge. And this 5-day challenge will literally take people 2 minutes a day. And if you're making video and you do this 5-day challenge, you will crush it. So let's talk about short form for a second.
Hold on, we got to pause for a second. This is him hashing something out, and if it's good, he's going to put in a presentation just in real time. We're watching it happen.
So this 5-day challenge, when you think about short form, we found what's happening in short form. The number one thing that's important in short form is a hook, right? The most important thing is the first 3 seconds of short form. But most people cannot get the hook right. A lot of times we have to try it too. So even when I'm filming with Steven will say, hey man, I'm not sure about the hook. Can you give me like 3 more? And I'll tell you what he did for a while. We would record a video and then I would record 3 or 4 separate hooks. And then he would post the same video with 3, 4 different hooks, 2 hours apart on TikTok. And he'd see which one performed the best. And then he'd take that one and he'd put it on Instagram, right? Because Instagram is a lot more mature of a platform. And then I said, well, that's really interesting. What is somebody who does not have kind of an editor to support you with that? What do they do? It's just super hard to do that. Then I was thinking, well, what is the artificial hook? The artificial hook is someone that has already tried a hook, meaning Wall Street Journal, CNBC, CNN, and all of them. So all you have to do is find the most popular article on CNN, Wall Street Journal, whatever, right? And that becomes the green screen. Every single agent, if they're wanting to get into video, should do a 5-day green screen challenge. 5 green screen video, 1 a day for 5 days. And the problem is, most people are like, you'll figure out to get the green screen and only get the one that's gotten traction. The nice part is the hook is built into the video. You don't have to say, let me tell you about the 3 reasons why. You don't have to do that. You just point up at the article and you're like, this article is wrong. And you can see whatever you want because and then they looked at the hook. The article is the hook. And because of that, every green screen video I did outperformed every other piece of content that I made.
I think the thing with green screen too, though, is it's like so raw and real, right? Since you're shooting it directly on your phone, generally speaking, right? I mean, I know like Chris Benjamin does one where he's sitting in a chair and it's videographer doing it, but like generally speaking, you're shooting it on your phone. It's real, it's raw. It's when I'm doing green screen, I know Tim doesn't do them, but like when I do green screen, it's something that just came out on the news, right? And so it's something that people are already Googling, people are already seeing. And so I think that correlates on the performance of it. And then I know Instagram, since you're using their tools,
everything, yeah,
it ranks well as well.
But I think the key there is to do 5 days in a row, is because otherwise you do one and you're like, and then you stop doing it. But if you do 5 days in a row, you actually get decent mastery at it. And what you get is you can pick the article better. You can start with the pointing better. The tools don't confuse you as much. You're able to layer in the transcription a lot easier so you know all the mechanics. And once you get used to the mechanics, the world is very easy. Like, I'll tell you the craziest thing. People say, oh, this is really complicated. Well, I'll tell you what's complicated. When we get up in the morning, we get in our cars, we have our coffee, we turn on the car stereo, we plug in our phone on our Bluetooth, we literally probably have a sandwich, we're checking our email at the same time, we're opening the garage door, we're backing up, we're not hitting anyone else's car. Like, you're doing all of this with a piece of machinery and like 19 things at the same time. That's hard. But you've done it so many times that you have enough reps that it's muscle memory now. Most people don't get enough muscle memory. And that's why I wanted this like 5-day challenge.
Next question, getting more tactical. Favorite video strategy you're seeing agents do right now?
So let's talk about long form and short form. Long form is, my favorite thing about long form is I love the ability to do long form and make long form short form. I think interview shows are great, but with more than 2 people. When you get 3 or 4, like if you look at the All In podcast, if you've never watched the All In podcast, one of my favorite podcasts with 3 billionaires and 1 millionaire, and they do an insane job. And because of the 4, it's super powerful because you get 4 different perspectives and 4 of them weigh in on opinion. So if you don't have the ability to make video, if you have 4 people, you can do that. And then if you film it on a tool like Riverside or something like that has high quality input and output, it's very easy to cut those up into short form. So that's a very easy strategy for folks. But trying to do hyper local stuff is my absolute favorite for a real estate agent. I don't know why people don't do more of that. And I'll tell you 2 reasons to do hyper local stuff. Hyper local stuff, the first reason is you know clearly who your avatar is. And otherwise you're like, oh, if you're looking to buy a home in general, it's too generic, right? If Katie was like, hey, if you're looking to buy a home in the Woodlands, this message is for you, right? And I actually bought an investment property in the Woodlands a long time ago. Otherwise, I don't know any other area in Houston.
I thought you were going to say, I just bought an investment property in the Woodlands. And I was like, I'm freaking done with this podcast. You're dead to me, Sharran.
It was many years ago. But the craziest part is, if the area is specific, it actually lets you talk to a very specific avatar. And I think most of the time we start to say things like, let me make a video about earnest money. Nobody wants to wake up in the morning and look at your video about earnest money. 0 people.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, that's the thing. Agents will listen to this and they'll be like, oh my God, yeah, I'll go get my lender. Yeah. I'll go get my title rep. And then we'll talk about like escrow and all this stuff. Just wrong direction.
So let's talk about why though. Most agents believe that when you talk about things like transaction mechanics, you take away the romance of real estate, right? Buying is aspirational and selling is operational. No one woke up in the morning and said, I'm super excited to sell my home today. But people have woken up in the morning and said, man, wouldn't it be amazing if I could get that house, right? And so they're not thinking, should I get home warranty? They're not thinking, should I have earnest money? They're not thinking, how do I do multiple offers? That is our job, right? So it is, I always talk about this phrase, which is showcase the complexity, but deliver the simplicity, right? You got to show how complex everything is, but they don't want to hear it. So the more we can talk aspirational, the more we can talk about the things that they're interested in. You're not trying to show the client that you know more. That is not the answer at any point. If you ever do that, like, have you ever seen a Ryan Serhant video, have him telling you how he negotiated a deal with the attorneys? No, never.
Well, he does, but it's all the fun stuff. Like some crazy story of something fun. But I think that this is my idea for agents. If you're listening to this, I think if you wanted to do the group thing, I would get like the mom that knows just all the stuff and knows the neighborhood, just really knows everything, lived there their whole lives. The dad that's like the coach for all the teams and just knows all the families, knows all the things going on. Like, get the most knowledgeable people in your area to talk about what's going on in your area, because that's what local people will tune into.
Yeah. So here's another local video idea. We talked about this at REVB, so it's nice to kind of bring back what we talked about at REVB, which is my favorite idea to nurture buyers. And it's the one video that you send, kind of the Friday video, right? Hey, what is the lowest priced home on the market?
I don't know if you remember what you called it, but it's the Friday buyer advantage.
What?
That's the one. The Friday buyer. Well, I've taught it like 4 times now.
He studied for this. You should see his notes. They're in his bag.
No, but the interesting part is when you're working with 10 buyers, we don't know what to send them, and we're hoping that the alerts and the drips make sense for them, right? But this video is actually really powerful because you can say, hey, here's the lowest priced home on the market. Here's the highest priced home on the market. Here, think what'll sit. Here's the one that'll sell. Here's investment property. And here's one that I like. Whatever it may be. You've got 5 properties that you're featuring, right? But when you do it on like a Loom-like setting and you do it in tabs on your browser, it's super real and raw. We talk about proof, right? But the coolest part about that is once you publish the video on like YouTube or whatever, and say you send it out to your database, you can actually buy low media budget on it and utilize it in the marketplace that you did the video for. The number one, I will say, bar none, the one thing that agents don't do that I wish they did was use low budget hyperlocal spend.
Well, we also have the term for it that we're using, which is janky. Janky video, like raw, kind of rough around the edges, Loom record.
Macy style.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, that's my problem is I want everything to look pretty and beautiful. And if it looks janky, I'm like, man, I'm not going to post this.
Have you seen your facial hair?
Yes, that is very janky. But people love janky videos because it makes you a real person that's actually sitting at their computer, that's actually going through the market stats and everything else. And it definitely connects with people.
I mean, it's the same thing with like the green screen or shot on your phone videos performing better. Every single time I've shot a video that's green screen or me just being like, hey, here's the...
In your car?
In my car.
Yeah, I've seen those.
Like those outperform, they get the most comments, the most shares, saves, all the things.
My favorite strategy on a lot of agents would be like, well, what do I put media behind? How much media money do I put behind it all? Let's bust all those myths very quickly, right? If you're an agent and you are focused on using media to grow your business, which I think every single person should do, just do a 10-day look back. Say you're posting a video every single day. Post a video every single day, and then go back in your last 10 days and say, which one outperformed everyone else? I guarantee you there's one. I guarantee you there's one that literally that one had the spike more than anyone else, any other video. So the audience is literally telling you that, hey, organically speaking, this video did better, which means that it will perform better, which means just put money behind that. You can do $1 a day for 5 days. The goal is to have Katie in everybody's feeds in this greater Houston area. That she should be always there every time. And people think this whole, oh, he bought followers, he bought leads. I'm like, none of that matters. The only thing that matters is how many impressions you get with your target audience.
It matters a little bit, but yeah.
But no, it doesn't. Let me tell you why, though, right? You can buy followers. At the end of the day, what are you buying? We have no problem with buying leads. No,
but I just think your engagement drops when you buy followers, and then your stuff doesn't get seen as many people and all that fun stuff.
Sure. But like there are ways that you can do it correctly. Like, for example, if Zillow was doing a shout out, you would buy a Zillow shout out. If Zillow said, hey, if you're in the greater Houston market and you want to follow 10 agents, go follow these 10 agents. If you did that, that's a really good follower for Katie.
So but what we're saying though, or what Tim's saying, I'm going to take the words, is that the people that you go into their profile and they have 50,000 followers, and then you go and look at their page and their last post has 500 likes, but then you click on it, it has 14 views and 0 comments. Like that's the type of follower that like we're saying don't buy.
Yeah.
Right. But paying for local views on your content, especially the unicorn content, the stuff that's performed well, I think is a good strategy of the I see you everywhere effect.
Yeah. I'm in agreement.
Well, it's just like when you go to a profile and they've got 1 million likes and you look and they're all from Kazakhstan. Nothing against Kazakhstan, but it's not where you want to have your followers.
Did you pronounce that correctly?
Maybe. Who knows? But continue on.
Kazakhstan.
We're getting a geography lesson, folks. Here we go.
$10 if you know the capital.
Azerbaijan.
What?
Azerbaijan is the country capital. Is Baku.
Do you like my
If
confidence
you
though?
pulled
that out, I was gonna.
Kazakhstan
I
is
was
the
gonna walk
country and
out.
the capital is.
I wish you would
Ta-
walk out.
Capital is Tashkent. Come on, man.
Okay, so
Well, hey, I'll give you.
finish
I'll give you a
finish
crazy
thought.
story. When I was a kid, I was sick for like 3 weeks. I had some random hay fever or something, and it was right before. I was probably like in 8th grade, and my mom stayed with me. I remember it like yesterday. My mom stayed with me, like didn't go to work, and I was really sick. But my teachers wouldn't give me. It was final exams, whatever, right? And my teachers wouldn't give me a pass or a pass fail or let me take it later. And so she's like, "Hey, you have 1 week to come take this test." And it was only one teacher when I was in like 8th grade, and it was geography, and it was like an elective in the school. And my mom's like, "Well, can you give us what's going to be on the test? Because my son's not been in class for 3 weeks." She's like, "I can't tell you that. That would be a disadvantage or, an unfair advantage." And my mom's like, "Okay." She made me memorize the entire geography textbook. I memorized the full book, right? And this was so pre-USSR breakup. So I memorized every single capital of every single country in the world, which is crazy. And I had trade
Albania.
routes. Tirana. Come on, bro.
I already knew that you were smart as fuck, but now I'm like, when we are picking trivia teams next time we're out at a bar, like Sharran's on my team, hands down.
I mean, I know like potato routes and like I had studied like the craziest things, but I memorized
Zimbabwe.
Harare. Come on, bro. Like you can't do this.
I love how quickly he responds.
I memorized all of this.
I'm
Listen,
I memorized a ton of shit
I will
in-
Venmo $20 to the listener that fact checks this stuff.
If I don't know, I would tell you. If I took more than 4 seconds, I'm making it up.
Yeah.
Well, I've memorized a lot of stuff in my day, for especially for a test. I'm 8 years old. That's impressive.
So
Have you ever seen an Indian kid memorize stuff? They teach you how to memorize in schools. It's like this is a cultural thing.
look,
It's like Zimbabwe, Harare, Zimbabwe, Harare, Zimbabwe.
moving.
If you are watching this right now, DM Sharran just a random country name, nothing else, no other context, just a country name. That way he knows that you saw this pod.
That's awesome.
Okay, I want to go back to, I feel like we kind of have gone down a lot of paths right now, but I want to go back to the long form, cutting it up for short form, right? And so again, as Tim said, like most people would have like their lender and their title person and whatever, and they'd be talking about like real estate transactions and they'd get 2 listeners, which is them watching it back. Would you go the same path of having like the soccer mom and the baseball coach and the whatever? Or what would be like your thing if you were a real estate agent in Laguna?
So I would do it one of 2 ways. Way number 1 is I would like to have a co-host that I play along well with, right?
That's a great idea.
You're supposed to like them too, so that's the problem.
But then I want to do things where I still think aspirational top of funnel. So I would get a builder. Hey, tell me the homes that you're building. Why are you building here? And you could get local school officials. Hey, what is the things that you're doing in this market? Anything that, what people will read a headline but won't read the article. I always think about like how many people, I want to have more people around me where they know more about the headlines and less about the articles. And the power in that is that everyone living in a certain community is so attuned to the headlines. Like right next to our house, we have this new Tesla dealership factory coming in. I drive a Tesla, so I'm like, oh, I'd like to know if I know the headline. But if someone was like, hey, here's 2 minutes on the mayor of Laguna talking about why this came, I'm like, I'm just curious, but I would never go seek out and read that. I'll give you the greatest thing. Also, from a podcast perspective, is how you name the show is really important too. So Young Lee in Chicago calls it the Chicago Business Review. And his entire model is he interviews entrepreneurs and business owners in greater Chicagoland. That is his entire show. So he takes that content and he chops it up. But he's like, I don't even care if I get views. I get to talk to a lot of these people. He had a different show like the Young Lee show before. But the crazy part is as soon as he started saying Chicago Business Review, he was able to get a lot more CEOs on the show. So
So you find it weird when someone names the podcast their name when they like don't actually have that much clout. Yeah, is that what you're saying? Like the Tim Macy show would be a weird name for a podcast.
Show is a really good show though.
The Joe Rogan show, but like they have clout. And
okay, I think we're we've done a lot of roast of Tim. I'm just
making sure that we're clarifying for the audience.
I was actually going to roast myself a little bit because I thought that I came up with a decent idea, and that's what happens when you have Sharran on. He takes your decent idea and makes it way better.
You just don't give ideas; you just agree with him. You say, "Oh yeah, that's."
But I really believe the other another way to do it also is from a straight content perspective. If an agent can say pick a day, every Thursday at noon, Katie says, this is my Instagram lifetime. And I'm going to go live with another agent in another market every Thursday at noon. So your job is to pick 52 people. That is way better. I think you may have talked about it in your agent attraction. That's way better in connecting with an agent, because it's not like, hey, Tim, if you're ever open to something in San Antonio, would you be? No, it's like, hey, get on this live. We talk about it. Now you feel like every relationship, your audience gets notified. My audience gets notified. I have this piece of content that sits. It doesn't even matter if anybody engaged with it. That interaction with that agent for an agent to agent referral is insanely powerful, because no one else has invited them on Katie's platform. You are providing the platform for them to talk, share, succeed, etc. And people remember that big time.
I want to switch gears a little bit. So
you didn't like that idea?
No, I did. It was a good idea. I just want to switch gears a little bit.
You didn't even acknowledge what he said. You're just like, okay, moving on.
Well, yeah, I feel like we talked about the topic a good amount. I feel like we're in a good place. We're in a good place. The audience is in a good place. They got a lot of value from that. All right. I just want to switch gears. So you have spent a ton of time, which I think we're all grateful for, really digging into innovating in whatever the real estate market looks like. And there's a lot of certainty out there that people speak with. Nothing's going to change. Oh, everything's going to change. Oh, this is how it's going to change. And I love the way that you've been coming at it with, ideas, trying to put things into place, helping agents work through things, building out the frameworks for how to have conversations, all that other fun stuff. But I do want to move away a little bit from tactical. And I want to know from you, mindset-wise, how you think agents should approach the changes that are coming in the industry.
There are three things that an agent really needs to know and feel and believe to succeed. Number one, they need to know they have a constant stream of opportunities, or believe that they can manufacture those opportunities. Number two, that they have the discipline to actually put in the effort to do the work. And number three, they have the skill and the capability for it. So if you're ever coaching an agent, you're thinking about your business, you always use this framework as an overlay. Say, hey, do I have enough opportunity in my business? Cool. I have enough leads. I have people to call. I have all of that. If you don't have that, then you have a lead problem, or you don't have people to talk to. The second is you have an effort problem. You're like, I work an hour a day, or maybe I'm a part-time agent, or whatever the reason, right? And the third is the skill problem. I will tell you, most agents, there's no lack of opportunity. And the nice part about our business is effort can be utilized in many different ways. You can get leverage, you can work it on a little bit, you can door knock, you can do whatever. But skill is deeply missing, because for one big reason, most of the time that agents are actually doing the work, as in taking an inbound lead call, or in an appointment with a buyer, or in an appointment with a potential seller, no one else is around them. And that's a very lonely thing when they're delivering the most high valued thing. And because no one is around them, they don't know if they're doing good or bad. So when they get into an appointment and say for some reason they don't do well, or they don't get the listing, or they don't get the buyer, you naturally blame it on, oh, that was a bad lead, or they have a client and they have someone else in the business, or she was unreasonable, or buyers are liars. We say these industry colloquialism things. But when you get to the point where you realize that your skill is important, everything changes. So here's like the thing that I think about a lot. People call real estate a numbers game, and I significantly disagree with that. And I have a super big problem with that, because that's just saying, hey, Katie, Tim, Sharran, you're the same as everyone else. It doesn't matter who comes into this business. We're all gonna have the same exact results. You're gonna call 100 leads. You're gonna call 100 leads. I'm gonna call 100 leads, and you're only getting 2% conversion. And if you don't, call 100 more, and the law of averages will take over. But there's a significant flaw in that, which essentially is saying, hey, Michael Jordan, if you take 100 shots, you're the same as Kevin Garnett taking 100 shots. You're the same as Shaq taking 100. That is not the case. There's a reason why their capability and their skill are better. So from a mindset perspective, if an agent can say, how do I skill-wise get better? And that skill, the problem with the skill is we have no benchmark. So I can't say, I can say, hey, I need more Instagram reach, or I need more views on my YouTube videos. They're all very tangible. But getting better on skill is very, very difficult. So you have no benchmark for people. So the reason why, I'll go on a podcast and actually do a script or a skill associated with it is I want the agents to at least utilize me as the benchmark. They can say, oh, I need to be at least as good as him, and he doesn't actively sell real estate, right? If I'm not at least as good as him, then how am I ever going to do better? We don't have a benchmark. And the problem with benchmarks that we see right now are false benchmarks that we see on stage at coaching conferences. people get up there, they're doing the script off, and they say, and they do this thing, oh, blah 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 blah, at Wednesday at 3 or Thursday at 4. Like, you can't do that. Like, that's not how it works. And they think that that's the benchmark. And then people are like, wait a minute, that sounds so scripted. That's not me being natural. I hate scripting. I'm out of it. Right. So from a mindset perspective, I just would love for agents to think, who has the benchmark of skill that I have, and what do I need to do to get there? So for me, there's this guy, Chris Voss. I don't know if you know Chris, amazing former FBI negotiator. When he talks, like, my benchmark is Chris Voss. Like, I don't have the late night, midnight DJ voice, but you should see his tonality. You should see his language patterns. They're amazing, right? And if you've not watched Chris, he has a masterclass as well. So amazing. But he's my baseline. So if I'm not as good as Chris, I know that I have work to do to get better. So my mindset is, what can I do to upgrade my skill every single day? And we don't upgrade our skills every single day. So if the industry has taught us prospect more, prospect more, prospect more. And I think that you can actually prospect less with better skill, and you'll have significantly better conversion.
Well, the other thing I think we may see is a move. So much of what I've learned since I've gotten in the industry is what you said, prospecting and obligation. Like, do things for your private clients so they'll feel obligated to work with you, or just call them enough times so they'll work with you. And we very rarely talk about how do we get better as an agent and how do we be more skilled. And I agree. I think it's going to go much more to a skills-based market if the consumer gets closer to the cost. Now, diving into that, how are you talking to agents about having that conversation with buyers?
The first thing about that, so what we're talking about right now is there are some new NAR changes. The world is in a different place. You can't just do what you used to do before. Two most important things are, number one, you can't say my services are free. And the second thing you can't say is, like, you can't really go show anyone house without some kind of signed contractual agreement. Those are the two things we're working through right now. So the first most important thing when it comes to this is there is no magic script. So if someone is peddling a magic script to get a buyer broker agreement signed, that's like someone peddling a magic script to get a listing agreement signed. It does not exist. Good process, and good process alone drives good results, right? So here's the process for getting a buyer broker agreement signed. Number one, you want to reduce friction continuously so that asking for the buyer broker agreement, asking for the signature is easy. And so they're already a heightened state of, sales resistance. So our job is to say, like, how can I reduce this? The first thing we do to reduce this is tell them that this is a normal way of doing business. So the first thing I would say early in the appointment is, Mr. and Mrs. Klein, there are 3 contracts that govern a real estate transaction. Number one is a listing agreement. This is between the seller and the listing agent that allows this listing agent to market the property, to attract buyers and negotiate on behalf of the seller. So I'm siloing the listing agent and the seller in one bucket. Then I say, here, put it on the table, here is a buyer broker agreement. This is the agreement that governs us, you and me. You sign this agreement to put me to work for you so that I can be your advisor to help you get you a home that you want, a price that you want, terms that you want. The third is called a purchase contract that actually brings a buyer and the seller together. There's a couple more agreements, which I will walk you through. Again, I'm opening the loop for later, but these 3 agreements govern the real estate transaction. Now, when I bring the buyer broker agreement back later, it's not like, whoa, what's this form, right? So you have to introduce it up front. If you do not introduce a buyer broker agreement up front, what you're doing later is, what people will say is, let me look this over. Let me try to think about it. You'll get a lot of think about it objections.
So sending it over via DocuSign and sending them a text isn't a great plan.
No, you should not do that.
Yeah. Okay.
You should not do that.
Well, it's like a lot of times it's the thing that we hope they don't ask us about. And I always say the conversations you're running from are usually the ones you need to run towards.
But that is exactly right. But the thing that we think about is that, why have we said, oh, my services are free to you in the past?
It's because we don't think they're worth that much.
That is correct.
Well, and also, like, the NAR settlement and all that isn't say, like, the our services are free has been something we weren't supposed to say for many years for NAR.
Yeah.
And so it's been something that, like, when, people are doing script practice and things like that, and they're saying that, oh, well, you don't have to pay. It's like, that's not how this works, and so, yeah, I'll get off my soapbox now.
No. It's good. So that's the first thing, right? The second thing, most sellers, so I think about a 4-step process. The first one is I have 4 levels of reducing friction. Number one, I want to let them know this agreement actually exists so that when I bring it back in later, they're like, oh yeah, he already talked about this. The second is, most buyers think they can only buy a home that has a sign in the yard. That is a myth that we need to dispel. The reason is there's only X number of homes available for sale today. We have no idea how many homes are going to come tomorrow. So all that a buyer is seeing is, hey, there's a home, there's a sign in the yard, and this is the only home that I can buy. And let me keep looking at potential new homes that are coming on. They don't realize that there is this passive inventory out there, especially in a market like today, which there's contingent buyers, there's FSBOs, there's expireds, there's cancels withdrawals. There's so many out there. There's like flippers, developers. There's so much potential inventory that they don't know exists. Now, whether or not that may come to fruition is a different story. But if they know that Katie has access to 26 more homes than the 7 that they're seeing on the MLS, that is a significant value add, right? And that's an important thing to bring up.
Well, so again, I keep going back to the things I learned early on, which just really make me laugh. Like when I first got my license and went to like local real estate trainings, and essentially it was, you guys all do the exact same thing. You just got to make it sound a lot more special than it actually is. And that's what all the scripts and everything were designed to do. Like, oh, when you list with us, you get syndicated to 240 websites. Like, yeah, you put it in the MLS. Like, what are we, you know? And I think now what you're getting at is the fact that, yeah, we do actually have to stand apart with our service. We actually have to add more value to the buyer. And for me, it's fun because I think there's a lot of great agents that are going to crush it. There's a lot of agents that may find their way out.
Well, you said something that I'm so glad you said, because if there was any reason for us to even do the show, is you used a few words, which I want to highlight, right? And you talked about these 3 words, which is add more value. I'm sorry. Nobody understands what that means. It's very subjective from an interpretation perspective. I'm calling out to like us to bring a point together. What does add more value mean, right? And I'll tell you what add more value means. In how I think about it is adding more value is all about one thing, which is proof. Because we need to add value. Why? Because they feel like we're commoditized. So we have to add value to stand apart. When we have to add more value to stand apart, we're going to talk about things that they're not familiar with. And if the things that they're not familiar with, meaning they don't believe us. And when there's lack of belief, they don't believe anything that we say. And they're like, oh, he and she are, Tim and Katie are just promising things. Instead, if you turn around and say proof, you're like, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Client, let me show you. Mrs. and Mrs. Client, click this button. When you show proof, things completely change. So whenever we think add more value, I instantly go to, what proof can I show? Did he just drop that? That's pretty funny.
That was a mic drop moment. Is really what that was.
But if anytime, so I've programmed myself to think about it now. Anytime someone says, oh, I feel like I need to add more value, that means the world is commoditized. I need to stand apart and I need to show proof, right? And anytime, and you and I talked about the artifact of proof, anytime you show proof, it dramatically induces safety. They're like, oh, that feels reasonable. And every time something feels reasonable, everything's approachable. And when it's approachable, it's safe.
Well, and like you talk about having off-market properties and knowing inventory that's not in the market is huge. And when you sit down for that buyer consultation, like, oh, this makes me think of a property over there on, Orange Street. And like, I know they're getting ready to sell here in a couple, and they're like, oh my God, he actually has access to off-market property. He's not telling me he does. He's showing me he does.
You know what's even easier? I will tell you the easiest way to win this game, right? In every open house, you have a binder. On the front of the binder, there's a thing that says off-market homes. And inside the binder, literally, you print off, you can't lie. You got to be legitimate about this. You have expireds, cancels, withdrawals, FSBOs, whatever in there. And you just black out the address. And that way you're like, hey, so would any of these, and it's sitting right there. So while they register, they see this binder that says homes off the market. It like will blow people's minds because you're showing an artifact of proof, right? Because if I said I have access to something off market, that's one thing. If I showed I have a binder, that's something completely different.
Well, and that's so easy to do when you're already prepping your open house materials and your MLS sheets and all of that. You can go through, look at the 0 to 730 days back of expireds and print them off. It's like, it's not hard.
And I mean, you have like clients in your CRM, right? I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I have clients that like, I know that they're here for 4 years and that's coming up. Like you have these things that are kind of in the pipeline, but we're not doing a good job talking about it or putting it out there.
But when you force the artifact of proof, that's when you're like, because the question we should be asking is, you're like, okay, cool. When I'm with the buyer, I should tell them about the off market or the expired. You're still commoditized, right? That you're trying to add more value. But when you can show it, something completely different. So the one of the things that when folks list property, I always suggest is right before you hit go on the MLS, you should screenshot Zillow, right? You can screenshot your Zestimate, because always people say is sales price to list price value and ratio. You should do sales price to list price ratio, sales price to Zillow's estimate ratio. And the only way that you can do this is if you take the screenshot before and the screenshot after. So you have to get it into your listing coordinator's workflow to take the screenshot before and screenshot after.
That's a really good reel. That'd be a really good reel. Little green screen action.
That'd be a good reel for Sharran to do. You should do that reel talking about that strategy.
I think I should.
You know?
Yeah. See, I'm just
Coming soon to an Instagram near you.
This is how you prep material.
All right. Are we still talking buyer regency?
I would talk about whatever you want, Katie.
Okay. I'd like to switch gears a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Look, she
I didn't know you could
at least acknowledged me.
Yeah.
You're a special princess, and we'd like to move on. No, so I want to talk a little bit about content, because like your accounts amass so many views and posts and all of the things, right? Like you put out more content than anyone I know, probably, other than like, Gary V, maybe Hermosi,
yeah.
right?
Yep.
So I know some of it you shoot yourself, some of it's edited and posted. Like I want to learn a little bit more about your content strategy, and then I want to know what you think would be something that an agent could do, because like what you're doing isn't something that I could do, right? Without hiring a whole team.
Yeah.
So like I want to hear what it is, just so like we have that like aspirational goal, right? And then like what your thoughts are for agents today.
That's a great gear change. That was good.
So
Thanks, Tim.
I haven't talked about this. I haven't talked about this anywhere before, and which is great because
This is a REVB exclusive. REVB exclusive. Let's go.
The interesting part about it is the things that I do now and I know now, I wish I'd done earlier, right? And so I'll give you a couple examples. So right now, I'll tell you how the team is. The team is structured. I have 2 agencies that do different content work, and we have 11 people total on the content team. So it's a 7-figure investment to just straight content, and I make no money off my brand. So I pay for all of it, and this is the truth. This is Sharran brand, and I don't sell anything off my brand these days. So it's a pure investment in the future, right? But I think the benefit is it does good things for Real. It does good things for us. It does good things for my brand. So I'm grateful to do it. I'll go in reverse order of what I've learned. Last year, so when I originally joined Real, I was playing point on all my content stuff. So I had a LinkedIn agency that was doing some LinkedIn stuff. They were doing okay, not great. I had Steven and the videography and all the short form stuff. We were starting to get into long form stuff. I had someone kind of doing email and automation, someone doing just graphical posts, someone doing like managing content and engagement. Like there was a lot. And I was literally the glue playing point on all of it, because I was like, well, they don't all know each other, and who else is going to do this? Well, when I came to Real, I just had no more time. And so I hired a brand manager. So I hired a person who came recommended and I had worked with in the past to run Sharran brand. And I will tell you that one thing changed everything. So we have tracking, and literally the tracking is like, you can see the time he started and the curve is completely different. Because he's like, oh, we need more impressions on this platform. Let's do this. And he just does it, right? Hey, I would be the backlog of proofing videos before they went live. I don't know if you are the backlog for that or the roadblock for that, but I
always get in the way. Always.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to make fun of Tim. So go ahead.
So right now, I have not proofed a video or proofed a piece of content going live in a year, because I have an amazing brand manager whose entire job is to wake up every morning and how to make Sharran brand grow. And the interesting part is, Alex and Layla shared this with me. So they run a brand report on a monthly basis. So we set some goals in the beginning of the year, and every month they put a brand package together for me. It's like, hey, here's all the impressions on every platform. Here's how many DMs we got. Here's how many leads we got. Here's the best performing content. And Layla told me this, which I'm so glad she did. I look at those and they were really dry. They were good reports, but they were really dry. And she said, hey, stop. At the end of these reports, you should tell the team to screenshot the top 25 comments made on different things. It'll make you feel like you're actually adding and having impact and contributing to people's world. So now at the end of my report, I don't even look at the numbers. I just flip to the last 3 pages and I just see comments. And it says which video, what the comment was, which video. And I see the comments and it makes me want to do more. Otherwise, it was just like I was doing it in service of making the numbers better. Now I do it. Now there's so much more humanity associated with it.
Rather than just chasing we need more impressions, we need more views, we need more likes kind of thing.
Yeah. And one more thing on this one. We changed our strategy. So we don't care about views anymore, but we changed our strategy internally to, we care about two things, which is shares and DMs. Shares allow us, especially on short form, to reach new audiences. And we count DMs through ManyChat and how many opt-ins we get. But Stephen will tell you, if we have a minimum baseline, hardline deck, if a video doesn't get at least 100 shares, meaning average account has 1,000 followers, 100 shares, or you get 100,000 new kind of views on it. If it doesn't get 100 shares, Stephen has to recut that video to get 100 shares. So there's accountability for him. So he knows that so it's the content's not on me. I already delivered it. It is his job to recut it to make it work. So he has to get a minimum. And it doesn't sound like a lot to get 100, but there are videos where I'm like, what the heck just happened? It like stalled out at 40. And you realize that that video could have been cut better or edited better or positioned better.
Well, it goes back to one of the other things that we talked about, REVB, which is repurposing your content. I mean, a lot of times we come up with this great idea and it doesn't do as well as we thought it would. And we're like, oh, the idea didn't work. When in actuality, maybe it was the execution of the idea and you should go back and redo it.
Right. So last part about how I kind of, so we make 45 new unique pieces of content a week. That's like our current goal. And the goal is to double that by the end of the year. But like, that's a lot. This is unique. Yeah.
Not when Stephen doesn't do it well and has to redo it. Sorry, Stephen.
No. Yeah. But he knows it's 45 new pieces of content a week. This is including, it's not like a tweet doesn't count, but it's including LinkedIn posts, anything substantial. So 45 new pieces of content a week. How we have been doing it up until like 3-4 months ago was Stephen would show up in Laguna every 6 weeks, and we would shoot. I would not change or anything. We would shoot for 3 to 4 hours, take a break, and then shoot for another couple. So 6 hours of total shooting, and then I'd be done for 6 weeks, and he would go and do his thing. And I was talking to Jason Capital, who's a really good friend of mine, amazing content creator. He said, "Dude, you're doing this all wrong." And I said, "Why?" He goes, "Number one, how stressed are you the night before Stephen shows up?" And I was like, "A lot, because I have to come up with content ideas, etc." He goes, "That is not your job. You told Stephen that he has to get X number of metrics. It is his job to come up with what to ask you. You need to show up. You're the talent. You need to show up, and he needs to ask you whatever he needs to ask you. And you talk for 3 to 4 hours and you leave. You're done." So Stephen was like, "I can do that." And now he shows up. He has the content. He has the hook. So he'll say something like, "Sharran, I need you to start the video with, there's one thing that a real estate agent should never do," and then say whatever you want. So I'll take a second and be like, "There's one thing a real estate agent should never do, and that is to do long form without short form," or whatever else, right?
There's such a market for videographers that can do that. And so I actually just shot with our buddy Rusty Gates. He's a videographer that I shoot with on occasion. And so he's a former realtor turned videographer turned now like media company. And he shoots short form with agents, right? Talking head style videos, and he coaches them on what to say, right? And so like he helps them through the process and does all that. And so like I think that's a very underserved market, because most people are showing up and they have to have their 30 ideas and they're stressed about it and they don't have them and they start stuttering and this and that. And it's like, if the videographer is like, "Hey, here's your prompts, here are the things of, the things to not do in a transaction," or whatever. I don't know.
Well, you're going back to important message, I think, across agents' businesses, which is finding the right people will change your life. Finding the right people will change your business.
I could not agree more. And sometimes it feels like an investment, but if it's not an investment, you're not taking it seriously, right? And the other thing is, you will make the investment and you will realize the need for the ROI. It's not like you don't define the ROI and then get the investment. You get the investment and then you like back into the ROI. The question for most people that they should be asking is, "Hey, is making content good for me or not good for me?" Answer that question. If it's a yes, great. Then you have to invest. If it's no, like otherwise you're going to spend 8 hours doing this and you're going to get tired and resentful. And it's super, super difficult, right? And the two flexes are, number one, so Stephen's not my videographer. He's not my editor. He's our producer, right? So he's like, so if you talk to me, I'm like, he's either my creative director or my producer. I'd be like, "Hey, you're my producer. You tell me what to do." So that was really important. And then getting Jairus to run our brand those two are really important things. Now, let's talk about what an agent should do. Every single agent, by the way, here you'll start to learn to talk in hooks, right? Every single agent must, right? Every single agent should do two things to use content in a very popular way in their business. Number one is you have to figure out your most natural platform. Most people think that they want to be YouTube stars, but it's not natural. Like Raj, right? He's like, I don't want to be behind camera, but I can do all these voiceovers. Like he figured out the right medium for him. If you asked me, and I honestly will tell you this, if I could do just one or two things, I would literally make podcasts and write emails. I don't love being on camera. It's not my jam, but my most natural medium is audio and writing. If I could do that, I would be super, super happy. But those two of my platforms perform the best too, because I put so much more love and care and attention to those. So number one, find the platform that's good for you. And you can win on any platform. If you can write, you can post, you can do video, you can win on any platform. I think a lot of agents have a platform mismatch. And they think that, oh, I need to be on Instagram more. You don't, right? That's go ahead.
Yeah, they're just doing the thing because everyone else is doing it.
Correct.
Not because it's what they want to do or what makes the most sense for them.
Correct. And the second most important thing, I believe, is to, and this sounds really basic, you got to post consistently, but it's not the posting consistently, but post stuff that you enjoy watching yourself, right? We think that we're like, oh, this would be a great hook. And I'm like, no, if you are not okay watching your own videos, something's majorly wrong. Why do you expect other people would watch your video? So if it's like you live in Laguna and there's a new Tesla factory, you should talk about it. Like Alyssa Carnot, like she does insane, like her Spokane channel is so good. She's so hyper local on her stuff. Like she did a video about the 5 new restaurants coming at the Spokane airport that got like 5,000 views. That is crazy if you think about it, right? But it's so hyper local and so specific, which I think is really, really powerful. If so, people can just get their right medium and write, post, create stuff that they actually enjoy, they'll find their voice much faster.
I think that there's a ton of opportunity for agents to collaborate with like local bloggers and influencers in that aspect, right? Because it's like Alyssa's done a really good job manufacturing that on her own, but like, you know, all of the foodie channels and influencer channels in your local market would be great ones to do collab posts and things like that.
Yeah. If you want a super unfair advantage as a real estate agent, you got to consider something like a list swap. A list swap is one of the best channels ever.
But I think collabs are kind of the new list swap.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sharran's like, send a fucking email.
But here's the interesting part, right? The reason for that is you want to slow the scroll. There's very few platforms that we interact with the social platforms with our thumbs, right? It's like, how fast can my thumb move? But we don't interact with email with our thumbs. Like every email you say, you make a choice on what to do with every single email. Like that is, until that changes or until AI takes over, until that changes, like we have an opportunity in that world.
This past week, I've been unsubscribing to all of the emails that I don't want to receive anymore because in the morning, I'm just like, archive. And so for the past week, starting like this past week, it's been very cathartic.
Check your list there, see if she's still on it.
I'm still on it.
But you know, the interesting part there is some people, I'll tell you what I've seen happen in my list over the last 10 years. We're roughly tracking almost 200,000 double opt-ins on our list over the last 10 years, right? And this is 100% organic. And I'd say most of them are people that have seen me speak at a Zoom or an event. So these are like really warm leads. I've seen people unsubscribe and resubscribe and unsubscribe and resubscribe. And I've noticed why. So they'll say, oh, maybe I used to kind of write every day. So I used to write 7 emails a week, every single day, because my email coach told me I should do that. Now I'm down to 3 a week. I do Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, generally speaking. And when someone unsubscribes, I tag them. And every week, my VA sends me a report of everybody that unsubscribed, that resubscribed. And it's roughly like 20 to 30 people a week that have unsubscribed and are now resubscribed to the list.
Yeah, they want that Sharran back in their life. They didn't realize that they were missing.
They go to an event, they're like, damn it, I've got to get back in his world.
No, but if you think about even at the event stuff though, right now, like I in the last few, I've stopped doing like, you know, give opt-in to get slides. I've stopped doing any of that because what I've realized is time on brand is the new call to action. You're going to watch me for 45 minutes and then I'm going to give you my slides. You don't need to opt in after that. I've already, if I can't make an impression on you in 45 minutes, then you're never going to listen to anything from me ever. So now anytime I'm speaking, I give away everything because I'm like, hey, and I actually tell people that too. Hey, here are my slides. There's no opt-in. There's no DM. There's no squeeze page, nothing. Can someone just tell me that they got it? got it, got it, got it, got it. And then you get this feeling of positivity. And they're like, wait, he started this meeting with goodwill. Because I know now that I can do whatever I want and I've already kind of gotten audience trust. Otherwise, it's like, it's friction. Oh, I have to put my email address in. Do I want to give him my Yahoo or do I want to give him my work email? Like, it's really messy, right? So I probably have, in the last 3 years, I've never asked for an opt-in at a event. And that's probably another 20, 30,000 people that I don't have. But you get insane time on brand, which is powerful.
Well, on the collab side of things, because you didn't really dive into the list swap tactic, but you do have a podcast on that, right?
Yeah. We can talk about it. Let's do
but
it.
I think the collab thing is interesting. So in San Antonio, there's this young guy who I actually met him at his store. He got a job as a tour guide, right? So he has this little store, this tiny little shop, and then he got a job as a tour guide, and he learned all this stuff, like old historical facts about San Antonio. And so he does these videos and he's like, this building was built in whenever, and like the so-and-sos bought it. And then, then after that, this other person. But then the comment section just fills with people that have their story about that building, and their mom used to work there, their great-grandfather helped build it, and all this other stuff. He's built this amazing local following just talking about the history of San Antonio. You go to all these places, do the history. It's great. And I am bugging some of my San Antonio agents. I'm like, who has a historic house that they can collab with this person on? Like, he's built this big, amazing San Antonio audience on historic stuff in San Antonio. Whoever has a historic listing, go collab with this person. Like, you have to find these creators locally and figure out what kind of thing that you have in your business that runs in parallel to what they're doing, and figure out that collab, because that's the easiest way to get in front of all of those followers that they have.
And the easiest way to do that is if you had a fake platform. And I say fake, I say it for a very specific reason, because people think that having a podcast or a show is this giant undertaking. It doesn't have to be. Like, Young Lee is the master at this. He created Chicago Business Review for one reason. He goes, I don't care if I get any downloads. I just want to have 45 minutes with the CEO of a local business on my show, because I can tell them, hey, can you come on the Chicago Business Review? It clearly is a legit show, right? And he gets one-on-one time with an entrepreneur and he gets free consulting and coaching. And the interesting part there is, how many times, if you got a DM that said, hey, Tim, I know you've done XYZ, I'd love to pick your brain, versus you got another DM that said, hey, Tim, I'd love to have you on my show. Whether you want to be on the second person show or not, you would be way more interested and be like, I'm curious what this person's show is, right? And it doesn't matter. So the more you can, and it's easier because you're inviting somebody to your platform, and then you can be like, oh, you do historic houses? Hey, we should collab something. Now you've already deposited in the Goodwill Bank, and it's much easier to pull out after that.
So Trey should have a local podcast about San Antonio, invite the Instagram person onto his local podcast, build the rapport, and then collab.
Correct. That's exactly right.
That's the one person that would actually do it.
No, we got some awesome San Antonio people. I think some other people would do it.
No, I mean, Trey just he executes. Like you say, this is going to go out into the world, and Trey's going to be like, I should do that, and then he's just going to go do it.
Well, as soon as we talked about the whole kind of I have a buyer video, the reformatting of the I have a buyer video, it was the next day. He was driving, he pulls out this I have a buyer video, he changes all the language, instead of saying past clients, he says private clients. Like, he nailed the buyer video in 24 hours of execution. It is insane how someone can do that, even though we give him such a hard time.
Man, I think we got a wrap here. This was pretty good.
It was really good.
So, Sharran, you got millions of people listening to the REVB podcast, speaking it into existence. It's 2024. Headed into the summer market. I don't know what the heck 2025 looks like. What do you want to leave people with?
In today's world, the consumer believes that we are commoditized. And the sooner we accept that, the better, because it allows us to operate from a really well-aware baseline. Then, if you know you're commoditized, you have to do something to stand out. What is that thing? And that thing has two parts. Number one, fame. The more famous you are, the easier it is. And I say fame because it's brand. Fame is the most efficient business model, right? That's number one. But the second is that if you're commoditized, people don't believe you. And it's proof over promise all the time. So if you could say, hey, how do I become, in 3 years, how do I become the celebrity in my marketplace that maybe have a show, have a brand, be known for something, whatever, have a biggest list? That's one thing. And the second is, can I work on my skill so that I can show proof in every single thing that I do? If I just do those two things, I'm going to crush it.
And I just want to little caveat on that, because I think some people will hear that and say, look, I'm never going to be the popular person that has 1 million followers. And I believe that right now people are super attracted to following people that sound like them,
100%.
people that are very normal. And I would say there's probably a lot of people who don't think they could build that following and do that fame approach that totally can. Because like I said, this kid that's built this following is a young kid who has a little shop that works as a tour guide. He's been able to amass this massive following. Like, you don't have to be super popular and everything else to do this.
You don't have to at all. And I will, I'm going to validate your point, which is every single person. Yeah, if you see anything that I share, I will almost never share like read this book, because books touch you in different places in your lives, right? But there's this article, and it's called 1,000 True Fans by Kevin Kelly. It is a must read. It is an article, and I say article is like maybe a 3-minute read. It is 100% free. It's on the interwebs. Kevin Kelly, he's the founder of Wired magazine, 1,000 True Fans, and he believes, and I believe this to be true. He believes that when you can have 1,000 true fans, 1,000 people who will love you, care about you, support you, be your evangelist, whatever, the 1,000 true fans is all that you need to have an amazing career for generations. And he originally created that for like creators, musicians, artists, etc. He believed that an artist and a musician can have an insane career by just having 1,000 true fans. And so our goal is, you don't have to have hundreds of thousands of followers. You just need 1,000 true fans.
Well, we appreciate you coming on. We are 2 of your true fans. Now you just got to work on the other 998.
Thanks, man. It's very hard to like create a event, produce an event. Super great to I was there, and thank you for giving me extended amount of time on stage. But more importantly, it's hard to pull off like a show. There's like, even people that see the equipment, the time, the pre-production, the post-production, this takes a lot of work. So kudos to you guys. Celebrate you for putting this out in the world.
Appreciate you.
Hey, so you're in for 2025.
That was good. Maybe.
All right. We'll see you guys
heard it
for the
here
next
first.
episode. Thanks for tuning in.